My brother tried to steal my girlfriend at Christmas. My parents defended him and called me the worst son. But when he stole my father's documents and extorted them for $50,000, they were left speechless. I'm 30 years old. I work in cybersecurity. Basically, I'm an ethical hacker. Sounds cooler than it actually is. I've been married to Jessica for 2 years. And I need to tell this story because what happened with my family 3 years ago basically destroyed whatever relationship we had. But now things are, I don't know, like trying to fix themselves. And honestly, I'm not really sure how to feel about it. I guess I should start from the beginning, when everything was more or less normal. Or at least, that's what I thought. My brother Logan is 4 years younger than me. He's 26 now, but when all this happened, he was 23. And we were always close when we were kids. You know, we did everything together. Video games, sports, the typical brother stuff. My parents have been married for like 37 years now. They celebrated their 35th anniversary 3 years ago, and it was precisely around that time when everything went to shit, but I'll get to that. My father works at a mid-sized company, has an important managerial position, handles sensitive information and all that, and my mother was always a homemaker but helped with the family business administration. We were, let's say, a normal middle-class family, without any major drama, until Logan decided to become the most selfish and manipulative person I've ever met in my life. The whole thing started at the Christmas party 3 years ago. Jessica and I had been dating for like a year and a half at that point. Things were going really well between us. We were talking about getting married and all that, and she was already part of the family. My parents adored her, or so it seemed. Logan also seemed to get along well with her, like normal, like in-laws. I never thought there was anything weird there. The party was at my parents' house. All the extended family was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents' close friends, you know, the typical big Christmas gathering where there's too much food and too much alcohol. I was in the kitchen helping my aunt with, I don't know what, when Jessica came in and she had this face, like uncomfortable, and she told me she needed to talk to me outside. We went out to the back patio and she was visibly upset, like her hands were shaking a little, and I immediately thought someone had said something inappropriate or something like that. But I never imagined what she was about to tell me. She told me that Logan had cornered her in the hallway near the bathroom and had told her, and I quote, verbatim, because Jessica repeated it to me several times later, that he knew he could make her happier than I could. That she was wasting her time with me, and that if she ever wanted to be with a real man, he was available. I mean, seriously? My own brother hitting on my girlfriend at my parents' Christmas party? I stood there processing what I had just heard, and I felt like someone had kicked me in the stomach. Literally couldn't breathe right. And Jessica was looking at me waiting for me to say something, but I just kept repeating, what? He really said that. Like I was hoping it was a joke in bad taste. But it wasn't a joke. I went into the house furious, looking for Logan everywhere, and I found him in the living room laughing with some cousins like nothing happened, like he hadn't just tried to sabotage my relationship. I walked up to him and told him we needed to talk outside, now, and he looked at me with this condescending smile that still makes me angry to remember and said something like, "What's up, bro? Everything okay?" Outside, I asked him directly if he had said those things to Jessica, and at first he denied it. Like, calm down, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. But I kept pressing, and eventually he admitted that yes, he had told her she was attractive, that I was an idiot for not appreciating her, that she deserved something better. At that moment, I completely lost control. I'm not a violent person. Really, I'm not. But I grabbed him by the collar of his shirt and pushed him against the garage wall, and we started to struggle. I was yelling at him that he was a damn traitor. How dare he? And he was pushing me back, saying I was overreacting, that he was just being honest. And things escalated until we literally ended up on the ground fighting, like a high school fight but with more accumulated rage. My father separated us. He ran out when he heard the commotion, and the whole party stopped. Everyone came out to see what was happening. My mother was crying, Jessica was in shock, and I had a bleeding lip and my shirt all torn. I told my parents right there, in front of everyone, exactly what Logan had done, and I expected, I don't know, that they would take my side immediately, that they would kick him out of the house or something. But in that moment, They just wanted to calm the situation down, for everyone to go back inside, that we'd talk about it later calmly. But I was too angry to stay. I grabbed Jessica and we left. And that was the last time I spoke to Logan for a really long time. The following days were a disaster. I called my parents like 2 days after Christmas, when I had calmed down a bit, and I explained everything to them in more detail. I told them that what Logan did was unforgivable, that he had crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, and that I wasn't going to have any kind of relationship with him until he apologized properly to Jessica and me. My parents understood, or so it seemed. They said they would talk to Logan, that they were very disappointed in him, and that they respected my decision. My mother especially seemed to be on my side. She told me that what Logan had done was completely wrong, that she understood perfectly why I was so angry. About 3 or 4 months went by without me having any contact with Logan. My parents kept me updated that he was fine. He was living in his own apartment working at I don't know what, but I made it very clear that I didn't want to know anything about him. Jessica and I continued our relationship. We got engaged like 6 months after the incident, and everything was going well between us. The drama with Logan didn't affect our relationship at all. If anything, it made us stronger. But then things started to change with my parents. Turns out Logan had gone to my parents' house one day, crying, according to what they told me later, saying he was very sorry, that he had been drinking a lot that Christmas night, that he said things he didn't mean, basically all the classic excuse of someone who does something terrible and then doesn't want to face the consequences. And my parents? God. My parents believed him, or decided to believe him. I don't know which is worse. They called me to tell me that Logan had apologized, that he was very sorry, and that they thought it was time for me to forgive him and move forward as a family. I told them no, that an apology to them wasn't enough, that he needed to apologize directly to Jessica and me, face to face, fully admit what he did without excuses about alcohol or anything. They said they understood and that they would talk to him. But Logan never apologized to us. Months went by, and nothing. Not a message, not a call, nothing. And meanwhile, my parents started to pressure me more and more to let things go. That family was more important than pride. All that speech that basically asked me to swallow my anger and pretend everything was fine. I told them no, that I had my limits and Logan had crossed them. End of story. I thought they would eventually understand, but I was clearly wrong. The real disaster came when my parents were planning their 35th anniversary party. This was like 2 years after the Christmas incident. Jessica and I were already married by then. We had gotten married in a small, intimate ceremony. Logan obviously wasn't invited. And things with my parents were tense but manageable. They called me to talk about the party plans. What day it would be, who would be invited, all the logistics, and I assumed it was obvious that Logan wouldn't be there, like it wasn't even up for discussion. But then, like 2 weeks before the party, my mother called me and very casually mentioned that Logan would be attending, that they had decided it was important that the whole family be together to celebrate, and that they hoped I would be mature about it. I couldn't believe it. I literally had to ask her if she was serious, and she started with the whole speech about how it was their anniversary, that they could invite whoever they wanted, that I needed to get over the past, and that Logan was their son as much as I was. I told her, fine, it's your party and you can invite whoever you want, but if Logan goes, Jessica and I aren't going, simple as that. I thought that would make them reconsider, that they would understand they were risking their relationship with me to please Logan, but no. They told me it was my decision, but they weren't going, to uninvite Logan. So I gave them a clear ultimatum. I think it was like a week before the party. I told them in a phone call with both of them on the line, listen, I'm the son who has respected your values, who has never caused you serious problems, who has a stable career, who is happily married, while Logan is the one who disrespected you, me, and my wife, and now you're telling me you'd rather have him at your party than me. I want to make this completely clear. If Logan goes, we don't go, and this is going to have permanent consequences on our relationship. Choose. My father's response was something I'll never forget. He told me, in that calm, cold voice he used when he had already made a decision, Logan is our son too, and frankly, he's been much easier to deal with these last few years than you have. If you don't want to come, that's your problem. but we're not going to let you manipulate us into excluding your brother. And then, and this is what really destroyed me. My mother added something like, maybe Logan is right. Maybe he is the better son at the end of the day, because at least he doesn't back us into a corner with ultimatums. And they hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, completely in shock. Jessica was beside me and saw the expression on my face and knew immediately that something terrible had happened. I told her what they said and she was furious. She hugged me and told me my parents were completely wrong, that I had done the right thing all along, and that if they couldn't see that, it was their loss. But honestly, as much as Jessica was right, it hurt like hell. I felt like my whole life, I had tried to be the responsible son, do things right, and in one moment my parents decided that none of it mattered. I didn't go to the party, obviously. On their anniversary day, Jessica and I went to the movies, trying to distract ourselves, but I couldn't concentrate on the movie. I just kept thinking that my family was celebrating without me, with Logan there, probably playing the perfect son, and my parents happy they had chosen him. I turned off my phone because I didn't want to see photos or messages from relatives asking where I was. I thought that was basically the death of my relationship with my parents, that we had reached a point of no return. But then, the next day, everything got much, much worse in a way nobody saw coming. My father called me at like 10 in the morning, totally frantic, almost yelling on the phone, saying he needed my help urgently. Turns out Logan, my better son, brother Logan, had gone into my father's office at home. My father has a home office where he keeps some important company documents, contracts, confidential client information, that kind of stuff, and had stolen a bunch of files and documents. My father only realized it that morning when he went to look for something and saw that his filing cabinet was open and basically empty of all the important documents. My father was in total panic because those documents contained super sensitive information, business strategies, client data, financial numbers, things that if they fell into competitors' hands could destroy the company. And Logan, who apparently had planned all this, had left the party the night before without anyone noticing anything weird, and now he wasn't answering calls or messages. My father was begging me, literally begging me, to use my cybersecurity skills to track Logan down, hack his phone or computer, find where he was, whatever was necessary to recover the documents. And here comes the part where I was probably a bit cruel, but I felt it was completely justified. I told my father, very calmly, that no, I wasn't going to do anything illegal to help them, and that frankly, they deserved exactly what was happening. I reminded him that they had chosen Logan over me, that they had called him the better son, that they had ignored all the signs that he was a manipulative and selfish person, and that now they were reaping what they had sown. My father started yelling about how could I be so insensitive that this could ruin his career, his company, everything he had worked for, and I simply told him he should have thought about that before choosing Logan, and I hung up. Jessica asked me if I was sure about not helping, not because she thought I should, but because she knew I might eventually regret being so harsh with them. But in that moment, honestly, I felt it was the right thing to do, that my parents needed to learn that their actions had consequences, that they couldn't treat me like garbage and then expect me to come running to rescue them when their favorite son betrayed them. During the following days, my parents bombarded me with messages and calls that I ignored almost all of them. My mother sent me several long emails, basically crying in text, saying she had made a terrible mistake, that they didn't know Logan was capable of this, that they desperately needed my help, but I stood firm. I didn't respond with anything substantial, just one message telling them to go to the police if they wanted help, but that I wasn't going to get involved. Eventually, like a week after the theft, Logan contacted my parents, not to return the documents or apologize, no, but to extort them. He sent them an email, which my parents later forwarded to me when we finally reconciled, basically saying he had all the documents, that he had made digital copies too, and that unless they transferred a specific amount of money, it was something like $50,000, an amount he knew my parents could get but would be painful. He would sell the documents to my father's company's biggest competitor. He gave them like 48 hours to decide. My parents tried to negotiate with him, beg him, but Logan didn't budge. Eventually, they sent me that email from Logan, along with an apology message of their own, admitting they had been completely wrong, that they should never have chosen Logan over me, that they deeply regretted what they had said to me, and that they understood if I never wanted to talk to them again. They didn't ask me to help them with Logan. They just apologized, and I think that's what made me at least read the whole message instead of deleting it immediately. In the end, my parents ended up paying Logan's ransom. What choice did they have, really? My father could have lost his job. The company could have had huge legal problems if that information leaked. It was a total disaster. After paying, Logan sent the documents back to them, or at least most of them. They were never completely sure if he kept copies. And then he disappeared. Blocked my parents on everything. Changed his number. Basically vanished with the money. My parents also hired a lawyer and put all possible legal protections against Logan in case he tried anything else. Threats of lawsuits and all that. But Logan never appeared again, at least not until now. After all that mess, several months went by where I had almost no contact with my parents. I responded to some very basic messages, like confirming I was alive, but nothing deep. They sent me apologies every so often, trying to explain how Logan had manipulated them for years, how they hadn't seen the signs. And honestly, part of me felt sorry for them because clearly Logan had been incredibly calculating in all this. But another part of me was still angry because they had every opportunity to support me and chose not to. Then, about 10 months ago, Jessica and I found out we were expecting a baby. It was a beautiful surprise. Totally planned. We had been trying for a while, and when we saw the positive pregnancy test, I think we both cried with happiness. We decided to wait until after the first trimester to announce it publicly, and when the time came, Jessica made a post on social media with a cute photo of us with baby shoes and all that, the typical pregnancy announcement. The response was incredible. All our friends and distant relatives commenting congratulations, and among all those messages, I saw one from my mother. It was a simple comment, something like, "Congratulations, you're going to be wonderful parents." But it was the first contact she had initiated publicly in a long time. And then, like the next day, she sent me a private message asking if we could talk, she and my father, just talk, without pressure or expectations, but they really wanted to try to fix things, especially now that their grandchild was going to be born. Jessica and I talked about it a lot. She told me the decision was completely mine, that she would support me whatever I chose, but also to think about our son or daughter, about whether I wanted them to grow up without knowing my parents, without that part of their family. And she was right. As much as my parents had screwed up tremendously, the idea of my child growing up without grandparents on my side hurt me. I didn't know if I could ever forgive them completely. But I thought I could at least give them the chance to try, so I agreed to meet with them. It was weird, very weird. We met at a neutral cafe. None of us wanted it to be at anyone's house. They looked older, more tired. And when my mother saw me, I think she almost started crying but held back. We talked for hours. They really apologized this time, without excuses, admitted they had allowed Logan to manipulate the situation, that they had prioritized keeping the peace over doing the right thing, that they had said horrible and unforgivable things about me being a worse son than Logan. They said they understood if I could never fully forgive them, but they wanted to try to rebuild something, even if just a small relationship, especially for their future grandchild. It wasn't like an instant movie-type reconciliation. I told them I was willing to try, but very slowly, with clear boundaries, and that Jessica and I needed to feel they had really changed before we could trust them again. They agreed to everything. We also made it very clear that Logan is a completely forbidden topic. I don't want to know about him. I don't want them to tell me anything about him. And if he ever reappears in their lives, we're out immediately, no discussion. Now, several months later, things are, progressing. We see my parents like once a month. Sometimes we have dinner together. They talk a lot about the baby. My mother has already bought like 1,000 things for when the baby's born. It's not the same as it was before. It probably never will be. There's a distance that I don't know if it will ever completely disappear, but we're trying. Jessica says she's happy we're giving them this chance, but also vigilant, ready to walk away if they cross any line again. As for Logan, honestly, I have no idea where he is or what he's doing with his life. My parents never talk about him. I don't even know if they have contact with him. Part of me hopes use that money to go far away and never come back, but another part knows that people like Logan eventually come back to cause problems. For now, he's out of my life, and that's all the peace I need regarding him. Last week, Jessica had her last ultrasound before delivery. We're expecting a girl, and my parents asked very timidly if they could be at the hospital when she's born. Jessica and I discussed it and decided, yes, they can come. But after the birth, when we're already settled and ready for visitors, it's a big step, I guess, letting them meet their granddaughter so soon. I still have my doubts, but Jessica reminds me that people can change, that my parents really seem sorry and are making genuine efforts. I hope she's right, honestly. I want my daughter to have grandparents who love and respect her, and who respect her parents too. I guess time will tell if this reconciliation is real, or if we'll eventually have to walk away again.